Welcome everyone to the third episode of the Two Ball Blog podcast. I'm Sebastian, and today's going to be a relatively short podcast. It's been a really slow news week, to put it nicely, to be honest with you. It really hasn't been much going on. I had a bit of a break, went down to Melbourne and watched the International Champions Cup, but other than that, there hasn't been too much news. I mean, a a few signings, a few trades in the NBA, a few signings in the Premier League. But outside of that, nothing major, to be honest. Melbourne was a great trip. Got to watch Madrid and Manchester City play live, and that was once in a lifetime opportunity. And really good game. It was, thank God we went to the entertaining one. So it ended up 4-1 in favour of Madrid, and thank God it was a good game to watch, because the earlier game in the tournament, Madrid and Roma, ended in nil or draw, went to penalties, and it seemed like no one could miss. It ended up like 6-5 in favour of Roma, and really just wasn't the best to watch. Wasn't all that entertaining. So I mean, in the end, it was a friendly, but what can you do? We got lucky with some good seats, and got to see Ronaldo, Bale, and the likes of them play live, and it was actually funny getting to see the players in person. Ramos looks a lot different, just a lot not as dark as he doesn't as not as dark as he looks in person. So and everyone was a whole lot shorter. Ronaldo's not that big, and even Pepe is ugly and big as he normally looks like on the pitch. Yeah, just a normal human being in the end. So we'll start off with Madrid. It was actually a really good segue. So just recently, yesterday actually, Ramos reportedly signed an extension with Real Madrid until June 2020, which just about puts an end to the speculation with Manchester United. So it's not quite official just yet. It can't be pen can't be put to paper, sorry, until August 23rd. But the two parties are still negotiating how much he wants to make. I think Ramos initially asked for 10 million euros a season, and initially Madrid offered him 7 million euros a season. I think they'll probably meet somewhere in the middle. I think the agreed fee is 9 million, but don't be surprised if Madrid tries to pull that down to 8.5, 8 million a season. So that, yeah, like I said, effectively ends what the United the chase for Ramos, the ongoing saga. So they're going to have to look for another centre back. They're I think I would have to say desperate, considering who they've signed so far. After signing Depay and after signing Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger, centre back is definitely at the top of their priority list right now. And Ramos would have been that world class defender to come up and shore up their defence. But other than him, there aren't too many options in the field right now. I think they had their eyes set on Nicolas Otamendi, and I think he has been taken off the board by, was it Villarreal? I think can't remember for the life of me who he played for. So he's been taken off the board, so he's gone. I think the Marseille defender Fekir has been linked to them, but he seems to be the defender that everyone's linked to whenever there's a gap to be filled. Definitely at Arsenal, he's been linked to it with us a few times, and if United could get him cheap, then why not? But I think they're going to have to take someone. You look at Chris Smalling, who's below average centre back in my opinion. Phil Jones, who's been inconsistent and is all hell. Then you've got Marcos Rojo, who's been impressive for me. He's the one guy I would say would be able to stand his ground if he did play alongside Ramos. But he is an impressive defender. Quick on his feet and always fighting for the ball. But you look at those other two players, Jones and Smalling, then you just don't see the same passion there. So if you keep going deeper in their defending list, you look at Paddy McNair, who's actually younger than me, 18, 19. So he'll be a good centre back in the future. Kind of in that Gary Cahill kind of mould, but there is a lot of room for him to grow. Such a young age. I'm sure Van Gaal. Van Gaal isn't the best with growing talent, but I think if you give him some time on the pitch, plug him into the not the Champions League, plug him into the Capital One, the FA Cup, those sort of things. Give him some game time, and you'll definitely see him develop as a player. You look at Tyler Blackett, who was right when you think of his name, you think of his stuff up, against Leicester City in that 5-3 game earlier in the season. I think a few goals, especially the James Vardy one, where he literally just ran straight past him and put it away. Pretty sure he gave away a penalty in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So There's a lot of players there in the depth chart, but just not too much quality. So Ramos would have filled that hole, but I think United now just need to bring someone else in. They could try and grass cut Chelsea, take away John Stones from Everton, but Everton are expecting a £32 million bid, which is the equivalent of Alexis Sanchez, Diego Costa, and Eden Hazard. So it is quite a lot. Stones, I would say, definitely has the capability to develop into a John Terry kind of level player, which is saying a lot. I mean, he is a grub and a dirty player, but you can't underestimate how good he is as a centre back. And he even said earlier this week that rival teams fans may boo him, but they all know deep down that they would love to have him on their own squad. So that's Ramos off the table for them. I think he's still young, 28, 29. Still he's pretty much in his prime now with Madrid, and he's overall just everything you want from a centre back. So he can head the ball, he's quick on his feet, he can defend well. I can't comment on how vocal he is on the team. Haven't been able to watch him too much, but from what I have seen, I can tell you, I think it's everyone knows he's a great defender. I don't need to say too much more. So staying with Madrid, still two more players to address. David De Gea, Van Gaal in his latest press conference said that De Gea is a maybe, that he maybe wants to leave United and go to Madrid, but it's nothing too solid, nothing that you can be grasped, and used. I mean, a maybe is like a throw up in the air. Of course, every player wants to go to Madrid. It's the John cliche, but I think maybe like for for Van Gaal to say that sort of thing is not a good sign. But even then, I mean, half of the United team, deep down, who wouldn't want to go to Madrid? I'm sure Ashley Young would want to go. Hell, Phil Jones would want to go. You look in the past, Nicholas Bentner, he came out and publicly said that he wants to. His next contract's going to be with either Barcelona or Madrid, and well, look how that turned out for him. He ended up in Wolfsburg, so a bit of a turnaround for him. So, De Gea being a maybe, I think he'll stay. But that being said, I thought Ramos would have come to Madrid. So, by my logic, looks like De Gea's going over to Real. But I think De Gea, looking at his current squad, he'd be pretty happy to stay for one or two more seasons. They do need to sign a striker, as I mentioned in the previous podcast. But there is pretty high hopes for a title this year. I mean, they spent close to £300 million, which is a bit concerning. But when you are spending that kind of money and bringing in the talent that they have brought in, there is that expectation. I mean, Schneiderlin's a great signing. Schweinsteiger, I already covered these guys in the previous podcast. But if De Gea is looking into the field in front of him, besides the back line, he's got two great defensive mids. He's got Mato, who can still create at center attacking mid. And then, of course, Rooney's still there as a great striker. If they bring in one more striker, they're pretty much set, and they should have a pretty good challenge for the title this season. So, I think De Gea, I don't know what to make of it. I think he should stay if he wants a good chance at winning the Premier League title. And one thing that you'll always get from me is that I think the Premier League is the toughest league in the world. You look at the other leagues, Bundesliga's a 3-horse race. You look at La Liga, you've got Atletico, then, of course, Barcelona, Madrid. But after that, who have you got contending with them? So, anyone, I think in the Premier League, anybody can beat anyone. So, you look at Stoke City beating Arsenal last season 4-3, which is a horrendous game to watch when you've got your mates giving you shit the entire time. So, that's just a massive indicator for the lack of predictability in the Premier League. So, I think for his best chance to win a title, I think, and to be challenged actually to win that title instead of it being a walkthrough, I think De Gea should stay. But if he wants to go and almost guarantee himself a Champions League place, he's pretty much already got he's got one hand on the La Liga title already. Then go to Madrid. I mean, he'll probably make more money besides his contract. I'm sure there'll be plenty of endorsements to go through. He'll make more money off the pitch than he will on the pitch. He is from Spain, so I mean, I'm not exactly sure which part or where he's from, but at least it'll have his native tongue while he's there. And Um, yeah, I think he's just about set. With which, sorry, no matter which way he goes, he should be okay. So we'll have to see how that goes with him. And finally, just to not to beat a dead horse, but the last bit of news, sorry, with Madrid, Karim Benzema hinting at leaving Real on his Instagram page, posting in French. I'm not going to bother saying in French. I'm just going to translate it. Yeah, his caption translated to "Let the past be in the past," roughly, and then hashtag rest in peace, and then hashtag direction future. So he's the Real Madrid team's currently in Malaysia in the International Champions Cup. So still, we're playing their exhibition matches and friendlies, preseason warm ups, and from what I heard, Benzema was heading towards Shanghai on a private jet by himself, and in the photo that he put up, he's all alone on a private jet. He's no teammates nearby, no training staff, so seems like he's going somewhere, and there's a lot of rumors of him going to either United or Arsenal. The only trouble is with that is United are very they're not shy about telling people what they want and being very vocal about who they want to sign, whereas Arsenal are very complacent and very lackadaisical when it comes to signing people. They're just very easygoing. Wenger, after winning the Barclays Asia Trophy, that's 4 trophies in 2 years for those keeping count. After after winning that trophy, they said, the squad's looking very good and Giroud's playing well. We don't really need to bolster it anymore, essentially. So, that being said, Van Gaal has come out and said he's going to sign some mystery striker, whether that might be Lacazette or Benzema. I think this is a clear-cut sign that Benzema's coming back, or leaving Madrid at least, and more than likely heading to the Premier League. So the one thing with Wenger is that a week before he signed Cazorla, he came out and said that he wasn't signing anyone else. And there's that the typical grin on his face, all this other nonsense that he's he's done. He doesn't need to sign anyone else. And the other thing with Arsenal signings is that they tend to come out of nowhere. The Ozil signing, just I woke up one morning, I was like, oh crap, we signed Ozil, and then last year we picked up Alexis Sanchez, and there really was no rumors or speculation. A few things from Bleacher Report, which hasn't been all that reliable, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I think that Arsenal are very easygoing when it comes to signing players, but when they pull them out, it comes out of nowhere. So if he does sign with Arsenal, it would come as both a surprise and like, oh great, it's happened again. But if he signed with United, then that'd be another reason for De Gea to stay. He's got that world class striker in front of him, and that'd push Rooney into the midfield, which he's very capable of playing. So Benzema's 28 years old, so he's entering his peak right now. I think maybe in his peak as well. I would say that he's in his peak right now. He still has a bit of time left, maybe until he's 32 or so. Wenger is very skeptical of signing players entering their 30s, so that's another knock against them, another reason to sign with United. But that being said, there was reports coming through that there was a £31 million bid for him. So I think if Arsenal took him, we would have had to bump up that bid to 36. But if United signed him, look for the region of 38 to 42 million, because Wenger is very reluctant to sign players for too much money. He'll never overpay for anyone. So I think, yeah, Ben not looking good for Madrid. But that being said, they'll sign someone else. So it always comes back to their cliche that everyone wants to play for Madrid. So we'll just have to move on from there. Looking over to Atletico, just quickly, Felipe Luis has been sold back to them after 1 year on the bench with Chelsea. He started 9 league games for them, appeared in a handful of Capital One and Champions League games. He scored 1 goal, which was a free kick against Derby County, and he got bought back by Atletico for £15.8 million. So I would say it's a year wasted of his life. I mean, he made his debut in the 6-3 win against Everton, which even then was about 5-6 games into this season. The transfer fee from... sorry, excuse me, I have to correct myself. Chelsea bought him for 15.8 million, and then being sold back to Atletico, that transfer fee hasn't been disclosed. Sorry, my mistake. Um, anyway, getting back to him, he's 29 years old, but he's always been a good left back for Atletico while he was there, and very solid, very quick as well, and uh, good good head on his shoulders. Keeps calm under pressure, knows how to play the right pass. So you can see him pushing up the line and putting in some good crosses. He'll pick up more than a few assists when he was playing with them. That would have been when I think that might have been the Falcao era, or even with Aguero. Sorry. So and even when Djurkic. So you can see him definitely picking up a few assists while he's moved back there. I think Jackson Martinez will be definitely benefiting from his runs. It just seems a bit of a joke that Chelsea bought him, used him, and then barely used him. Sorry, excuse me, and then sold him straight back. So I mean, it's hard when you've got a younger player of Cesar Azpilicueta in front of you, and I can understand if Jose Mourinho wants to play the younger player in front of him, but yeah, they just really had no use for him. I mean, they do have some other good defenders coming through. There is Bertrand, and you have Kurt Zuma, who can fill in at the centre back role, and of course Ivanovic can play either the left or the right back. So I think better just to get rid of. Don't let him. There's no point in him sitting there wasting his time. And yeah, better for him to get back on the field as an international player than have to spend the rest of his his season on the bench. So moving on, just quickly back to United, and this will be a second last topic before I have to get going. They signed Sergio Romero from Sampdoria in Italy. He's on a 3-year deal. He's the Argentinian international keeper, and was best known, I think he played for Galatasaray, I want to say. No, I'm thinking of someone else. Let me double check my notes. Yeah, anyway, so he's, I think, well-rounded keeper. He had a good World Cup for Argentina. I mean, despite them not having the greatest finish, and of course the whole storyline of Messi not being able to win a World Cup and this and that. He's a good goalie, but he got stuck behind Emiliano Viviano at Roma when he got loaned to them from Sampdoria, which has got to be a bummer because he is a good goalkeeper and just stuck behind a taller one, which is a good asset to come in handy when you're a goalkeeper. That kind of hype definitely helps. Ask Ospina, because he's the same height as me. I think this signing for United means one of two things. Either De Gea's going and Valdez is going to step in and Romero is going to be the backup goalkeeper, or Valdez is gone, De Gea stays, and Romero steps in as the backup goalkeeper to play in the FA Cup and Capital One Cups. So, this ties back into all the drama with De Gea. I think he'll be a good backup goalkeeper either way you look at it. He's still got plenty of time left until he ends his peak. The good thing I do like about goalkeepers is that they can play until they're like 40 or so. You look at Van der Sar, retired at 39, 40. Brad Fiedel just retired this season at 41. So, I mean, there is plenty of time for Romero, to make an impact with a team. So, it'll be interesting to see how that signing affects the decision whether De Gea wants to stay or go. So, moving on to the last topic, this became a big issue. One of the things that over the last week, so this might take a bit of time, was the concept of just how much people are getting paid and how much money is being spent. So, touching on the NBA just quickly, there was Josh Smith, who got signed to a veteran minimum contract with the LA Clippers for $1.5 million for the season, and was recently asked in an interview about his relatively low salary. It is a veteran minimum, so that's obviously the minimum he can make. The quote reads, "At the end of the day, I do have a family, so it is going to be a little hard on me this year, but I'm going to push through it. I made a decision for me and my family." Smith has copped a lot of flack for this. From the outside looking in, $1.5 million. I mean, that's a crap load of money. But it's all relative in the end. I mean, he is making a lot of extra money since he's making $6.9 million for this season altogether after being waived by the Detroit Pistons. So they're technically still paying him even though he's not playing for them. So, yeah, all in all, he's making $6.97 million this season. And he's come out and said, it is going to be hard on my family. And people have come out and said, how the hell is it going to be hard on you making $7 million a season? Oh, such a tough life, isn't it? So he copped a lot for that, which I think for people who don't completely understand the context that it's in, that would be kind of fair enough because they don't have enough knowledge on the situation. But if you do a little bit of research for it, I think Smith moved to LA and the income tax for there is 40%. So that's just less than half of his contract already gone. I'm sure he's going to have to buy a house over there, which is another, X amount of dollars gone. And, being the NBA player that he is, he's going to be living a rather ravishing lifestyle. So there was a Snapchat of him with Rudy Gay in the club, drinking and everything and trying to be recruited, Rudy Gay splashing some cash to try and get in play. And you can see Josh Smith doing the same thing to quote the Jalen Rose, he's going to be champagning and campaigning. So, $7 million is a hell of a lot of money. That's there's no other way of looking at it. It is a lot of money, but there are a lot of expenses for an NBA player. He is going to be paid off the court, of course. Other endorsement deals and whatnot, like I spoke about earlier. But I think just all the flack that he's copped has been just unwarranted, and it's just looking on something a bit too harshly for something that means so little for people. I mean, if you're going to look at people, if you're going to criticize anyone, sorry, look at Joe Johnson. Paying $127 million over 5 years when his agent got that contract with the Atlanta Hawks. Like, that's borderline ridiculous. He was never worth that kind of money, and there was a big stir about that. But Smith's the context he's talking about is taking care of his family. He's not saying, $7 million isn't going to be enough money for me to live the same life and go out partying and all that. He's saying, I moved to LA and I made a decision for my family. So he's taking care of the people he loves, and you can't fault a guy for that sort of thing. So not to be the good Samaritan or anything, but I think people should just try and lay off him a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, the guy's taking care of his family, and I mean he made $91 million over his career so far, but other than that, you can't really have a go at him for it. So just quickly, there's also the prank from Lee Nelson in the latest press conference of FIFA. Sorry, excuse me, where Sepp Blatter was giving a speech. He stood up, started speaking to the press, and then threw money over Sepp Blatter for North Korea 2036. So check that out on my Show Me the Money blog post, and the video's in there. I'll put the link also in the post for this one. And it's actually pretty funny to see. And the photograph of Sepp Blatter sitting there by himself and surrounded by cash is one for the age. Desktop background worthy indeed. So finally, Jose Mourinho has called out other Premier League clubs, accusing them of trying to buy the trophy, which is which is so ironic considering the very rich history of Chelsea spending money. I mean, rich in the greatest sense of the term. I mean, it does not get much more literal than that. I spent some time researching how much they've spent since 2005 all the way to 2015, and I think the lowest that they spent in one season was 24.1 million, which that's the least they spent. But that being said, you can look at their winning ways and how much they've won, and look at it's like, hold on, haven't you guys bought the title as well? You look at 05 or 06, they bought Shevchenko for 30 million. 07, 08, they brought in Anelka and Maluda. 08, 09, they bought Bosingwa and Deco. That was the 24.1 million year. 2009, 2010, Daniel Sturridge and Yuri Zirkov. 2010, 2011, Ramirez, David Luiz, and how could we forget Fernando Torres for 50 million. So that season alone was $108 million spent. 2011-2012, Courtois 9 million, Lukaku 12, Juan Mata 23.5. Even then, Gary Cahill, Kevin De Bruyne, both 7 million each. So that year 85.45 million. So I mean, and we'll just skip a few seasons, just jump back up to 2014-15. This year, Cesc Fabregas 27 million, Diego Costa 32, Felipe Luis 15.8, Loic Remy 10.5, and for some unknown reason, Ryan Quadrado 23.3 million. So really just he has no right to talk about how other teams are trying to buy the title. I mean, he did admit himself that Chelsea did it in the past, which I don't agree with. They're still doing it now, but speaking to a friend of mine, actually, we were discussing this, and he was saying the sad thing is that that's really the only way for teams to win now, and I'm a bit 50-50 on that statement. While, ideally, you do need to bring in quality players, and then at the same time you should be developing younger guys, so you do have that balance. But that's what the world football has really turned into, just constantly buying players, selling players, and just the real need to bring in quality and pretty much win the title through having enough cash. That's really the sad thing that I really hate about Manchester City. Is just the fact that they have essentially bought the titles that they won. Buying in Aguero, bringing in Vincent Kompany. They had Joe Hart a bit earlier on and before they got bought out. But even then, when they brought in Robinho and now Sterling, which is one thing that really pissed me off, especially for £49 million. It's really just despicable. There's no other way of looking at it. I really hate the culture of it. You have to buy so many players and to win the title, but it's kind of hard, especially coming from an Arsenal fan, where the team is reluctant to spend any money at all. You have to believe in the philosophy that you have, and I suppose you ask a Chelsea fan here, and they'll openly admit, it's like, yep, we spent plenty of money, but look at what we've brought in, X amount of FA Cups, X amount of Premier League titles. I mean, really, when you're spending this kind of money, then you'd have to win the title. The expectations are up there. I mean, the analogy I use for it all the time is a friend of mine who I went to school with his parents spent rather, close to $20,000 on tutoring and whatnot. So, you look at that and say, well, if you don't get a 99 in your exams across the board, then it's pretty much, it should be a failure. So, it's when you are spending that kind of money, there are those lofty expectations. So far, Chelsea have exceeded them, and they've been winning. So, I mean, who am I to criticize what they've been doing? But you look at United and some of the other teams. United spending £300 million. If they don't win the title or make a serious challenge, this was a quote from ESPN FC, then the season can be counted as a failure. I mean, Arsenal last year was under similar circumstances after bringing in Alexis Sanchez, and they said there is enough quality in this team to win the title. That wasn't primarily based on the finance side, rather it was based on just the talent side of the ball. But yeah, I think Chelsea's going to have to be up there again. They brought on Falcao this year, which I think this will be his last chance to revive his career. I think Monaco is just trying to make their money back before selling him on to Galatasaray or some other Turkish team. Even if, like I said before, if United's not up there, then, well, it should be counted as a failure on Van Gaal's part. It is hard to believe that the culture's changed so much just 2 years removed from, Sir Alex Ferguson. So, yeah, with that, we're going to have to end it there. Just a quick half-hour podcast today. Best way to contact me is tweet me on Twitter. It's Sebastian_Quinn. It's Sebastian with no T. Like my page on Facebook. It's 2ballblog, and this will be going up as soon as possible. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.